Hey everyone, and welcome to my SAI tutorial. This is pretty much for a friend, but anyone is free to use it if they want to. So I'm just going to go about the tools and stuff that you can do on SAI. It's really similar to Photoshop. You'll probably hear me say that 10 times in this video, and I apologize. Also, I apologize if my voice sounds really horrible. And if you need to turn it up or turn it down or whatever, feel free. So to create a new canvas, you just, same thing as Photoshop, file new, and you can adjust your size, etc. And I'll probably say that 10 times too. So, the first tool is your pen tool. Let me check to make sure my recording is working. Okay. The first tool is your pen tool, and it's the tool that I always use for lining and coloring and everything. So, that's what it looks like. That's your pen tool. And I have my pen pressure on because I use a tablet, so that's why it tapers off. If you have a mouse, it'll just look like that. That's your pen tool, and then your airbrush tool is just like your soft brush tool on Photoshop. It's just, a soft brush. And then your brush tool is it's kind of like what you use when you use a brush. So you got these nice fur looking strokes, I guess. I don't really use this that often, but feel free to. It's a nice brush. But if you have a mouse, it'll probably end up just looking like this because you don't have any pin pressure. But because I have pin pressure, I can make it look like it's, lighter. But if you have a mouse, you want a pin pressure, so it'll just look dark like that. Let me undo these. And then your water is a really good tool. That's the next one. So, let's say you got some red right here, or some, part of your sky or something. And then you got some yellow. If you want to blur these two together, it's not like blur, but it kind of is like blur. It's a bit hard to explain, but you just go over the line that's right there, and you just work at it, bringing in the reds into the yellow, and the yellow into the red. And you just keep working in your strokes until you think it looks right, or you like it, rather. And that's what water does. It mixes the colors together like it would with a watercolor. And your marker is like a marker. I always do that. It's lighter the lighter you press on it, and if you overlap, it gets darker, and if you press harder on your thing, and on your tablet, it'll be more dark, and it's not as bright. See, this is the same red I was using there, and it's like a pinkish, but if you go over it, it makes it darker. So it's really good for shading. That's a really good shading tool if you want to use that. And your eraser tool is just simply your eraser tool. You can just erase things. I'm going to go ahead and erase my canvas so I have more room. And so, oh darn, why did I erase it? Now I got to redraw something. Okay, so if you want to select part of this, say this is like you're drawing, okay. If you want to select part of it, you click the select tool, and you just draw the part that you want to select. Say you want to select this section right here. Then you press this quadrant tool. It looks kind of like graph that you do in math, like X, Y, etc. I just said it again. But then you can just move it around where you want it to go, and then to deselect, you just press deselect, and you erase the selection. And bucket is pretty much just your bucket. You can just dump your canvas color. It's dump white. Sometimes, that's the one weird thing about SAI. I don't know why it has this weird color that you previously dumped, but you can just go over it and refix it with your pen tool. I've never understood why it does that, but it just does. And your binary tool is like your pixel or pencil tool. It's pixel. It's like your pen tool except pixel. It's really nice because in SAI you can make it have pin pressure, whereas in other programs you can't. Really neat. That's only if you have a tablet. If it's a mouse, it's just going to be one strict color. I mean, not color, pressure. And your ink pen is pretty much the same as the regular pen. I really don't see the difference in using the ink pen and the regular pen. It's just like the same thing. The only difference is you can make it like really, really thin, really dark. Well, you can do that with the same with this, but you can make it really thin and really dark. But the pen tool, it's a lot easier to make it lighter and then darker than it is with that. See, it's the same thing, but I prefer to line with my pen than to line with the ink pen, but it's pretty much the same thing in a nutshell. And then I have 2 different water levels that I've saved, but those probably won't be on yours. And then there's the acrylic, which makes things look like you're coloring on a canvas board. And the paper makes it look like you're drawing on a piece of paper. Crayon looks like you're coloring with crayons. And blur just blurs what you want to blur. So that's those tools. Oh yes, and then this is how you adjust the size right here. You can just do 100 or 1. You can also adjust the minimum size. Mine is set to 0, which means I have pen pressure. If you have a tablet, it will matter, but if you have a mouse, it won't. So this is what it looks like with 100, and it has no pen pressure. And then with 0, you control the pressure. I can do light, or I can do dark, or I can do really light. It just, depends. So that's that. And then the density is pretty much turning it into an airbrush and a marker combination. Like, you can make it look like that, and if you go overlapping, it'll make it overlap. Let's see. You can see the overlap, them overlapping and stuff. That's the density. The lasso tool is the same as the lasso tool in Photoshop, and the magic wand is the same as the magic wand on Photoshop. Okay, well, I'll show you how to color something. Let's say you have this head right here. This is so quickly done, I'm not even, I got some density on. Let me redo that. I didn't mean to have any density on. I like to line in various things, but I don't like to have density on when I line. No, actually, I'm just going to draw a circle. For the sake of this video, this is going to be really ugly, and I apologize. Let's say that's your wolf, or dog, or the human, or whatever you're drawing, except 10 times better than that, because that's a piece of crap. But that's just for example purposes. I'm not going to go into the whole drawing mode, because that would make this video like uber long. But that's my line art. So if you want to just color inside the line art, you take your magic wand tool and you select outside. Oh crap. Darn. You gotta be on your line layer. Sorry about that. And then you select the white outside your lines. And you go to selection, invert, and that'll just highlight what's inside your lines. And then you go to your next layer, I forgot to say, to color your layer, it's this button right there. And then you go to underneath, and then you click on pen tool, and then you can color it whatever color you desire. And then you go to select clear. Select your color. To lock your color layer, you press preserve opacity. You just click it, and it'll have it locked. Let's say you were to recolor it green, and you can recolor it green, no problem. Sometimes whenever you base it like that, like dumping it, there'll be like little tiny things outside. If you have like fur, So you can go in and erase that before you lock it. But if you lock it and then you try to erase it, it's going to make it look like it's invisible, but it's going to be white. Which you won't want that, because if you're saving it as transparent, it's going to have those little white things and they won't be erased. So you got to make sure you check for that. But it's the same thing as Photoshop, I think. I haven't used Photoshop in a while, but it's pretty much the same thing. So to create a grouping layer with your base layer or coloring layer, you create a new layer above it and you select clipping group. Then if you want to add some like red markings or something, so you want to make this ear red, you can do it like that and it won't go outside your base color. It's got it clipped inside it. So instead of like it being like this, whoops, that was a fail. Instead of it being like this, it's clipped inside, so you can't go out of it. And if you want to erase it, it's just going to erase your red or your markings. It's not going to erase your green, which is a nice thing. Oh, what else? Oh yeah. Some people like to use a line art layer. It's a specific layer for your line art. I don't really use that, but I know some people do. I've seen it on a couple tutorials. It's the same thing. It's pretty much the same thing as a regular line art. It's just uses a couple different tools like the pressure and edit and curve and line. But I'm not really going to go into that because I don't really use this tool. So if you want to use this tool, you can look up some tutorials for that. But I'm not going to go into it, like I said, because I don't use it and it's not my thing. I just prefer to line with my pen tool because it looks exactly the same and it's much easier. So that's that. If you want to delete a layer, you just press this trash can. And then you can delete them. My canvas is blank again. Okay. Oh yes. To adjust the opacity, let's say you want to adjust the opacity on something, you can use this big long thing right here. It's 100, and the lower you do it, the less the opacity. Higher, the more. Same thing. Then you can change the multiply or overlay or shade and all those things. There's less things in there of those than there is on Photoshop. But it still works nicely. You can use overlay or multiply for your shading layers or stuff like that. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about what else I can add. Oh yeah, let's do some zooming. Up here is like your taskbar. I don't know really what to call it. I'm not like uber amazing at SAI. But you can just zoom in with pressing the plus, zoom out, pressing the minus, and to go back to your regular size, like your actual pixels, you press the X. And these are your edit undo. You can edit and redo with these buttons right here. And to rotate your canvas, let's say you want to you're drawing like a leg. I should probably draw it in green. Say you're drawing like a leg or something. And then you want to line it, and you can't get it at like your specific angle that you're at. Say you can like rotate it and zoom in and do it like a certain rotation. That really helps if you can't get it a certain way. When you're lining, you just press the X and it'll make it go back to your normal size. And then there's this thing called a stabilizer. It's what makes your lines curved. I usually set mine at 15, but like in 0, your lines can be less curved and they're not as smooth. And if you add more stabilizer, it'll automatically smooth your lines. See? My fur is more smooth here than it is here. The higher your stabilizer, the smoother it is, but I wouldn't recommend using anything higher than 15 because it makes it really lag like this, and it's really slow. But it does smooth out your lines more. See, if I'm just going like that, it's going to make it like almost straight. Other than like, if I set it at 15, it'll just make it like that. See, it's more straight here than it is here, but it's really slow. If you want to use it higher than 15, it's just your preference, but I like 15, so that's a stabilizer. Don't feel like you're cheating if you use a stabilizer to straighten your lines. It's just a nice tool to have, and it doesn't mean you're cheating. What else? Oh yeah, you can add you can change the shape of your brush with this. And the texture too. I don't ever do that, but those are there if you want to use them. And then you got your color wheel. You can add other things like these bars. You can add them and get rid of them by just clicking. And there's this really cool thing right here where it's like a palette, like, you know, when you paint, you can have like your painting palette. It's the same thing. It'll always keep your colors there, so that if you're shading, if you want the exact same blue every single time you shade every single picture, which is what I do. Sometimes I mess around with the colors, but generally, you can just take your color right from there, and it'll just be the same. Because every time you close that, it'll always be there. You can just close it and then bring it back up. Yeah, you also have swatches. You can do the same thing with swatches. You can just add them and stuff. And up here, you got your edit open. Your open and save and edit, undo, paste. You can change your size and your resolution. Changing the size will increase or decrease the canvas size. Changing the resolution will decrease or increase your image size. Totally different. And you can flip horizontally, etc. You can flatten layers, merge layers, same thing as Photoshop. You can transform, which is the same thing as Photoshop. You have hue and saturation, which is the same thing as Photoshop. In view, you can zoom in and out, or you can just use the zoom in and out right there. That is about it, I want to say. I could be forgetting something, so if I am, feel free to leave a comment and ask me a question. I may do a tutorial on shading, but I'm not sure, because I only have a free trial of this program, but of my recording program. I have a full version of SAI, but so that's that. It's pretty close to Photoshop, so if you've used Photoshop before, it shouldn't be too hard to learn SAI. The tools are really similar, like I said, like a gazillion times. So, that's that. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, and I wouldn't mind answering. Also, again, I apologize for my horrible voice. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Bye.